Hey everybody, I'm Mike from DenziCaster, and today on the DenziBlitz, it's part 3 of Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. Now this is of course the DVD box set release that came out from the wonderful folks at Shout Factory. You can find it all different kinds of places online. Very affordable too. Right now it goes for about $40. Very much suggest you look into it. Shout Factory is not paying us to plug their stuff, folks. It's just that when it comes to tokusatsu getting domestically released, it really doesn't happen often. So when it does, you should back it if you're a fan of tokusatsu. This is, of course, the show that in 1993, 1 year after its release in Japan, was adapted as Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, we go through one disc at a time. We're on disc 3. Which the reason I'm popping this open is because the disc listing is on the inside here, and I'm having to kind of cheat a little bit to find the episode titles because I've watched these 5 on different days, and so we'll have to remember here a little bit. So today we're looking at My Master, Papa's a Vampire, Fire the Golden Arrow, Become Small, and Destroy the Dark Super Sword. Now, as is customary here on the DenziBlitz, we're not going through each episode in any great detail. This is more impressions, insights, my thoughts on a particular given part of a series or a movie, so to speak. So in this case, we're looking at Zyuranger, and these 5 episodes give us, in one area, a little more of the same. We are still in the establishing characters phase and establishing powers and attacks and all that stuff phase of the show. Super Sentai shows of the early 90s and in the 1980s preceding it had a long build-up until you got into the story in earnest, more often than not. They took a good chunk of time to establish their characters and their world. So we are continuing in these 5 episodes on Disc 3 to establish that the world of Zyuranger is pretty fantastic a world. Already in the show, we've dealt with gnomes and witches and, for want of a better term, flying monkeys and various elements that we would classify as fantasy. Far more so than the shows that preceded it, like Jetman, or some of the shows that would succeed it, like O-Ranger, just a couple years later. Just the very idea that these folks are 170 million years old, kept in suspended animation by a wizard called Barza, in order to fight off the evil witch Queen Bandora once she returned, or should she ever escape from her prison on planet Nemesis. We get more of the fantasy here. We have, in this batch of episodes, we wind up with a vampire. We wind up with strange ceremonies and spells being cast under the light of a full moon, under specific circumstances. We have a genie and Aladdin's lamp. All of these things pop up in this batch of episodes. We do, of course, still have some focus episodes here. We have some episodes focusing on Boy and Dan, and those, in one case, actually sort of a shared focus between them, just continue to reinforce their character tropes, that Boy is the fierce warrior with a distinct code of honor, that Dan is the impetuous youth. But we also have in these a focus episode on May, the Terra Ranger, or Pink. If you were watching Mighty Morphin, that's actually the one that is loaded into my Legacy Morpher that sits up here on my shelf. So May is, like Geki, royalty among her tribe. Now remember, the Zyurangers are all members of 5 different prehistoric tribes that coexisted with the dinosaurs, each one with their own guardian beast, a deity to each of the tribes, hers being the pterodactyl. And whereas Dan, Boy, and Ghosh, our Black Ranger, Mammoth Ranger in this, are all knights, Geki is a prince. That doesn't preclude that he's not a knight. It just means that he's royalty as opposed to simply nobility. Well, Mei, likewise, is royalty. She is a princess. But we see here that her tribe has a distinct role, so to speak, that they have certain things that they are known for doing, archery being one of them, this myth of a golden arrow to be used being among them. We get a real sense that not only in her family and her tribe is it royalty, but they are warrior royalty. Very much a Japanese and medieval European mentality where a lot of royalty would come from knights and warriors. More ancient Japan, the idea of the samurai being your highest caste. They were the nobility. So we get that out of her, and we see that not only is she the stereotypical pink princess type character, but she can also fight. She also has a sense of duty, and she is not to be underestimated. So pretty cool little focus episode about her. We also get a focus episode on Ghosh, Mammoth Ranger. Ghosh, or Goshi, I guess, depending on how you hear it said, is considerably older, just visibly, than the other Rangers. If I actually hold the cover up here, and I don't know that you'll be able to see it very well, but Ghosh is the one on your far right. Yes, your far right is Ghosh. That is our Black Ranger. And you can kind of tell, I'll try and hold up here, hopefully it'll focus. You can kind of tell that he is a good bit older than the other characters you see there, even older than Geki, the Tyranno Ranger, our red. And he is very much this, I would say, very almost tragic character in his focus story, in his background episode, because we see that his sister gave her life fighting Bandora's minions in order to save him, so that he could go forth and become a great knight and help protect the earth. And we see that there is that sense of quiet nobility and quiet sense of honor to him. Bandora, for her part, we continue to see her as a much more active villain than Rita Repulsa was in Power Rangers, and she is a much smarter villain, necessarily, than Rita Repulsa was. She realizes, part of the focus episode on Ghosh is that he is the heart of the team, even though Geki is its leader, and that if they can eliminate Ghosh, then they eliminate that strong column that supports the structure. They can take that away, and that becomes key to their plan. So we see that in his episode, and we also see that he is the intelligent one. He is the smart one of the team. As we said before, the tropes between the different Rangers from Mighty Morphin and Zyuranger, they maintain a lot of the same elements, but they will rearrange them. Ghosh has the quiet, supportive nobility, that anchor, which you could attribute a lot of that to Trini, but by the same token, he is also the planner, the tactician, the smart one of the team. He is the sage elder, and it is that wisdom that we would attribute as Billy's intelligence in Mighty Morphin. He's the one that ultimately comes up with the plan. It's his focus episode. Of course, he's the one that comes up with the plan to stop the big bad for that episode. A couple of things that these episodes do, one thing I've noticed is that this batch of episodes really were a handful of episodes that didn't see a lot of footage reused for Mighty Morphin. And part of that was because these episodes are very kid-centric. Not that they're aimed at children, all Super Sentai are at the end of the day, but that they are very heavy on featuring children. We have in the episode with Argini, which to pull back here would be My Master. So in that episode, we have a genie released from Aladdin's lamp, who is becomes the genie for a group of children who stumble upon the lamp after it is left behind by Bookback and Totpat, Squat and Babu, for those of you who watch Mighty Morphin. We have an episode with, let's see here, I think it's the one with Become Small. Yeah, with that episode, Become Small, we have a child team up with the Monster of the Week because they both feel neglected. They both feel useless and teased and bullied. And they're going to prove themselves by defeating the Zyurangers. One being told how the child being told how useless he is by his mother, and Don Don, the monster, being told how useless he is by Rita, or Bandora, pardon me. Told you that was going to happen from time to time. And you have the last episode out of this particular batch, where we have in, what is it? Yes, Destroy the Dark Super Sword, where it is a child that is necessary to create this incredible, indestructible, evil sword that will make whoever wields it unbeatable, an invincible person, warrior, and we wind up with a child being the only thing that can stop the monster. So there are instances, we have a kid, in just this batch of episodes, we have a kid wind up in Daizujin, in what we would call the Megazord. We wind up with a kid facing down a monster while the monster is giant, defying the monster to strike him down. We wind up with a kid growing giant and fighting the Rangers and fighting Daizujin and trying to stomp on the normal size Rangers. We have a lot of kid-centric elements to these batches of episodes, and so because of that, a lot of this was not adapted into Mighty Morphin. You can kind of tell from looking at it. So that was very interesting. One other interesting thing out of these batch of episodes to me, and it's probably the last thing that I will harp on for this batch, that really struck me and I enjoyed, was this is the first batch of episodes where we have some monsters of the week that don't get killed. Kind of the idea that not all monsters are bad. Now, this is something that had been done plenty of times before in Super Sentai and in Kamen Rider, not very often. I remember a couple of specific instances in Kamen Rider history where one of the monsters would turn on the villains and join our heroes. And we've seen it a handful of times in Super Sentai since this series. But typically the monster is the monster and he's going to get blowed up. Well, in these, we have Don Don, our monster, who gets bullied. Well, he gets bullied, he gets told how useless he is, and once the kid turns over a new leaf and we realize, no, your mother is the one that's at fault, because your mother keeps telling you how useless you are. She should be supportive and encouraging. Then Don Don realizes that Rita Bandora, has been treating him the exact same way. And so we wind up with that monster becoming a hero, and it is indeed the monster that actually wards off Queen Bandora and her minions. It's Don Don that does that. We see something similar with the genie, where the genie is evil under duress, that it is only because Bandora crafts a lamp for the genie after she destroys the Aladdin's lamp that allows her to control him and make him evil. Once the children reassemble Aladdin's lamp and call him back to his original home, then there's nothing Rita can do to stop him, and they eventually wind up putting the lamp where no one will find it, so that this powerful mage will never be used for evil again, since he has to serve whoever holds the lamp. So you have a couple of instances where the monster of the week doesn't die because the monster of the week isn't evil, which I always thought was an interesting lesson and something to be taught in shows like this, that among any group or grouping of beings, in the case of shows like this, there are good ones and there are bad ones, just like human beings. One other thing, because it just occurred to me, that should also be mentioned, in the same breath that not all of our monsters get killed, we also see that not all of our monsters get blown up before becoming giant. In this show, much as we've seen in Mighty Morphin, it is Rita's magic wand that is used to make my monster grow. She doesn't say that in this show. But normally in Power Rangers and normally in Super Sentai, the human-sized monster is destroyed before brought back to life and made huge. Not the case here. Now, she did that often enough by making Goldar giant or Griffzor for the purposes of this show, or some of her other minions giant size, but we see numerous instances where even the monsters of the week are made giant without being destroyed by the Rangers in human form before calling on their giant mecha Daisugen. So, some pretty interesting stuff out of this batch of episodes. Not as story heavy as our first batch. This is more just setting everything up. I'm very much looking forward to our next batch because Disc 4 seems like it will introduce the Zyuranger version of the Green Ranger. Dragon Ranger, he is referred to in here. Episode 17, which will be in our next batch of episodes, is called The Sixth Hero. So, wonder who that is. I'm sure he probably doesn't wear anything that even remotely looks like that. So, I'm looking forward to that one immensely, and I hope you are too. Hope you're enjoying DenziBlitz as we go through Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. I don't edit these things, folks. So I hope you're enjoying it. I hope that you stick around and watch the remaining 7 parts of this series. And I hope that you jump over to our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/DenziCaster. Check us out there. Tell us what you'd like us to cover, not only on the regular show, but on the DenziBlitz as well. There's all kinds of shows out there, folks, and we've got access to a whole slew of them. So just let us know what you'd like us to talk about. Of course, also, if you'd like to support DenziCast or any of the other shows here on the ECS network, please jump over to our Cafe Press store. It's cafepress.com/ECS network. You can find shirts and mugs and stickers and decals and all kinds of great stuff for the various shows here on the ECS network, including, of course, DenziCaster. So, until next time, when we have more of Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, which is now sitting in the floor and the case is in multiple pieces. I'll be fixing that later. Until then, I'm Mike, and we'll see you next time on The Blitz.